Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Jaya Rajatanaranjana Jaya Rajatanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Rajatanaranjana Jaya Rajatanaranjana Yamunatira Chare Jaya Kunjavi Hari Jaya Jaya Kunjabi Hari Jaya Rama Jaya Kunjabi Hari Jaya Rama Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Jaya Rajatanaranjana Jaya Rajatanaranjana Jaya Kunjabi Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You can leave these tables. Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. Nice to be back in Buenos Aires, where the aires are bueno, where the airs are nice. Especially the devotional air. I'm trying to remember, did we talk about this subject when I was here in 2019? Anyone remember that long ago? Anyone was here? Oh, okay. So, by Krishna's grace, I got the opportunity to write this book, which you see a picture of here. And which I have one copy of here. And which is available in English online to be legally, digitally downloaded. Because I was able to have it published open access. Open access is a legal arrangement by which a publisher makes a book available in digital form free of charge for anyone.
Open access es un arreglo que se hace con el editor de los libros, el cual lo pone disponible para que todas las personas puedan descargarlo en formato digital y gratuitamente.
I'm sorry that it's not yet in español castellano.
Lo siento, pero de que todavía no esté traducido al español.
But if you put a little friendly pressure on Jananivas Prabhu, he's supposed to be working on the translation.
Pero si le ponemos un poco de presión amistosa a través de Navidad, él supone que está trabajando en la traducción.
You can get him to feel some competition because it's also been, there's a translation almost finished in Russian language.
También podemos decir que estamos un poco compitiendo porque hay una traducción que está casi terminada al lenguaje de ruso.
And there's another translation in Mandarin.
Y también está haciendo incluso otra traducción en mandarín.
Chinese language.
en chino mandarín.
So we don't want the Spanish language to lag behind, right?
No queremos que el lenguaje español quede retrasado, ¿no?
No. So you have to put a little pressure on him.
Tenemos que presionarlo un poco por alguna manera.
So a little bit of the background of this book, and then I just want to give an overview of the book.
Entonces, primero hablamos un poco del entorno del libro y luego voy a hablar del libro en sí mismo.
But time is limited, so this will be a very brief sketch.
Pero el tiempo es limitado, entonces va a ser un poco breve.
Some years ago, I got involved with one small institute in Oxford called the Oxford Center for Animal Ethics.
Hace un tiempo me fue involucrado por un pequeño centro en Oxford que es el Centro de Estudios de Ética Animal.
They invited me to give a talk on Hinduism and animal ethics.
Entonces me invitaron a dar una charla acerca del hinduismo y la ética de los animales.
And one talk led to another, led to another.
Una charla llegó a otra, llegó a otra.
And the director of that center asked me also to write a book on the topic.
Y el director del centro entonces me pidió que escribiera un libro sobre el topic.
And he is the chief editor of a book series
Él es el jefe editor de una serie de libros
by a particular publisher, a series on the subject of animal ethics.
particularmente una serie de libros que se refieren a la ética animal.
What is animal ethics?
¿Qué es entonces la ética animal?
It's all questions dealing with how we human beings relate with or should relate with non-human animals.
Entonces hay todas las preguntas acerca de cómo nosotros humanos deberíamos relacionarnos con los animales no humanos.
And it's a very big subject.
Y es un tema muy grande.
This particular book series has over 40 monographs, 40 titles, 40 books.
Esta serie particular de libros tiene 40 títulos.
And so he invited me, why don't you write a book on Hinduism and animal ethics?
Entonces él me invitó y me dijo, ¿por qué no escribís un libro acerca del hinduismo y la ética animal?
And initially I said, well, yes, maybe.
Y yo al principio dije, bueno, sí, puede ser.
And he asked me again a year later, and I said, yes, maybe.
Y luego me pidió no, un año después, y dije, bueno, puede ser.
And third time he asked me, and I said, yes, maybe.
Y la tercera vez que volvió a decir, y dije, sí, puede ser.
And then he said, I really want you to write this book.
Y él dijo, realmente yo quiero que vos escribas este libro.
Why do you want me to write this book?
¿Y por qué quieres que yo lo escriba?
Because you're a practitioner.
Porque yo soy practicante.
And then a little bell went off in my head.
Entonces,
Ding, ling, ling,
una
ling.
campanita me sonó en la cabeza.
Krishna was calling me.
Krishna me estaba llamando.
Here's an opportunity.
Aquí hay una oportunidad.
Why did you go to university, back to school for so many years?
¿Para qué te fuiste de vuelta a la universidad por tantos años?
To get that qualification.
Para tener esta calificación.
And now here's a nice opportunity.
Entonces aquí hay una linda oportunidad.
Un lindo oportunidad. But I thought, actually, what interests me personally in this area of Hinduism and animal ethics is the subject of cows.
Entonces yo pensé, lo que a mí realmente me importa dentro de este tópico del hinduismo y la ética animal es acerca de las vacas.
There's been a few books written on this subject already by devotees.
Hay algunos libros escritos al respecto por algunos devotos.
And they're all good in their own ways.
Y son todos buenos a su manera.
But I felt there's still a need for a different type of book.
Pero yo sentía la necesidad que había una posibilidad de escribir un tipo diferente de libro.
So I asked the director, what if I just focus on cows and Hindu animal ethics? And he said, yes, great.
Entonces yo le hablé al director y le dije, ¿por qué no escribimos acerca de las vacas y la ética hindú animal?
So I still had to go through a process of getting a proposal to the publisher. And there's a process of reviewing the proposal, blind review, because it's an academic book. They have academics review the proposal. But I went through the whole process, and they asked, so how much time do you think you need for writing this book? I thought, well, I don't know anything about this topic. I have to do a lot of research. So I said, I think I need 3 years. And they said, oh, well, actually, we don't give contract for more than 2 years. Okay. So now I have to really put my energy and attention into this to do it right. So with some help from Krishna and a lot of help from lots of different people, including devotees, it was possible. And in the beginning of 2020, it was just before the COVID pandemic hit the world. The book came out. So that was, now it's 20, yeah, now it's exactly 4 years. And the open access digital version has been downloaded 58,000 times. So maybe somebody is reading the book. Normally this is an academic book. It means normally maybe it sells 300 copies or 500 copies. Or maybe only 80 copies. But because it's open access, it's 58,000 people are taking it. Right, so a little bit of overview of the book, what's in the book. In a way, the question is, what's so special about cows? So I discuss about this in the introduction. Why focus on cows, and what does Hinduism have to do with cows? Yeah, and that's a good question. What does Hinduism have to do with cows? So In chapter 2, which normally we would call chapter 1, but it's this publisher system, introduction is chapter 1. Okay. Chapter 2 is called The Release of Cosmic Cows.
Entonces, el capítulo 2 generalmente sería el capítulo 1, pero entonces el artículo de que llaman al prólogo, capítulo 1, a la introducción, capítulo 1, y el siguiente, capítulo 2. Entonces,
The Release of Cosmic Cows.
la liberación de las vacas cósmicas.
Oh, what is that about? Well, in the Rig Veda, there is more than once describing a story about how Lord Indra fights with and kills Ritra. And he kills Ritra, and as a result, the cosmic waters are released because he's been holding back the cosmic waters. And this is compared to cows being released from a pen, so they run through. So cow, in different words, is referred to more than 700 times in the Rig Veda. Cows were highly valued in Rig Vedic culture. But also, because they were highly valued, they became also representative of, in a symbolic way, of different things. So I described some of that in the first part of this chapter. And then I go through sort of over time in the classical literature. There's Rig Veda, then the Upanishads. There are cow stories in the Upanishads. Or stories that have some connection with cows. And then, I missed something here in my list. After the Upanishads, there's the Mahabharata, and then comes the Bhagavata Purana. And of course, the Bhagavatam is what devotees mainly are interested in. Because the Bhagavatam describes how Krishna takes care of cows. I also refer to some mention of cows after the Bhagavatam. There's a lot of poetry which is in different regional languages of India. And one of my favorites is from Surdas. I wanted to include the whole poem in my book, but the publisher said, not allowed. They have very strict rules, copyright rules, especially with poetry.
Hay reglas muy estrictas y derechos de autor muy estrictos, sobre todo con la Protección.
So my editor said you can paraphrase most of the poem and then you can quote about 4 lines.
Él dijo, lo que puedes hacer es parafrasear la mayor parte del poema y luego citar textualmente 4 líneas.
Okay, so that's what I did, and it's a poem which is describing Krishna, how he has broken the pot of yogurt or butter, and now it's all smeared all over his face.
Entonces yo describe como Krishna había robado el pote de mantequilla o yogur y ahora estaba con toda su cara encasтрada.
Anyway, it's a very sweet poem, and my point is because it's connecting milk and Krishna, and that's, of course, connecting with cows.
Es un poema muy dulce y el punto es que conecta a la leche con Krishna y de alguna forma entonces lo conecta también a las vacas.
So in that chapter, I want readers to understand there's a cow and Krishna connection, which is very important.
Entonces, yo lo que quiero es que el lector, en este capítulo, lo que quería es que el lector entendiera que hay una relación muy importante entre Krishna y las vacas.
That devotees of Krishna understand that that's an important connection.
Que los devotos de Krishna entiendan que es una conexión muy importante.
And therefore, devotees feel it's important that cows are protected.
Entonces, de esa manera que los devotos entiendan que la protección de las vacas, que las vacas que entiendan eso es la importancia.
This is a message that our Srila Prabhupada gave very strongly. We can change.
Ese es un mensaje que nuestro Srila Prabhupada nos dejó muy fuertemente marcado.
But so in the next chapter, I give a bit of modern history from the late 19th century.
Entonces, en el siguiente capítulo, yo digo un poco de historia más moderna de finales del siglo XIX.
About what comes to be called the cow protection movement.
Acerca de lo que se llama el movimiento de protección de las vacas.
There's a history, and it has a lot to do with the history of modern India as the idea of India becoming independent from the British developed.
Entonces hay una historia muy importante, y esa historia que relata también esa relación con la India moderna y cómo la India se independizó del Imperio Británico.
So I identify 4 voices which are very significant in this history.
Entonces he identificado 4 voces que son muy significativas en la historia.
The first of these his name was Dayananda Saraswati.
El primero de ellos es llamado Dayananda Saraswati,
who wrote a pamphlet in the early 1880s about cow protection called Cow, the Reservoir of Compassion.
Entonces él escribió un panfleto a principios de 1880 que hablaba acerca de la protección de las vacas, que se llamaba
The Reservoir of Compassion.
Las vacas, el reservorio de la compasión.
And it was a very influential pamphlet. It was distributed quite widely in North India.
Y fue un panfleto muy influyente, de hecho fue distribuido muy ampliamente en el norte de la India.
And he inspired people to organize, to make clubs to promote cow protection. Societies. Yeah. After Dayananda Saraswati, there's Mahatma Gandhi in the early 20th century. And Gandhi became famous worldwide for promoting ahimsa.
Gandhi fue conocido mundialmente por promover ahimsa.
Practically, the word ahimsa became a kind of household word because of what he was doing.
Entonces, la palabra ahimsa
A word that kind of it was common, something.
Una palabra de uso cotidiano.
But what he was known for, of course, was mainly his political action against the British for the independence of India.
Pero por supuesto, por lo que fue más conocido es por su acción política en contra de los británicos y para la liberación de India.
What he was less known for, but which he was very vocal about, was his concern for animal protection in general and cow protection in particular.
Pero por lo que fue muy interesante, fue muy importante su labor acerca de lo que él decía de la protección de los animales en general y de las vacas en particular.
Then, also in the first part of the 20th century, was a man named B.R. Ambedkar.
Luego, a principios también del siglo XX, estaba el
Ambedkar was in very, very strong disagreement with Gandhi about some very fundamental things.
Ambedkar estaba muy fuertemente en contra de Gandhi sobre algunos temas fundamentales.
Especially about Varnashram. Gandhi was in favor of a sort of purified Varnashram.
Especialmente sobre el tema del Varnashram. Gandhi estaba muy a favor y sobre todo quería purificar el sistema de Varnashram.
And Ambedkar said the whole trouble with Hinduism is that it persists to have this caste system.
En cambio, Ambedkar decía, el gran problema que tiene el hinduismo es que ellos persisten en mantener este sistema de caste.
He himself came from a so-called untouchable background.
Él venía o provenía él mismo de un ambiente y un entorno que se podría llamar intocable.
But he was very vocal, articulate, he became highly educated.
Pero él se volvió muy educado, tenía un vocabulario muy extensivo.
And he was the leader of the Indian Constitutional Assembly for writing the Constitution.
Y él era el líder de la asamblea para escribir la Constitución de la India.
And shortly before he died, he officially converted to Buddhism out of protest against the Hindus. Before he died, just weeks before he died suddenly. Anyway, it's just details. The point is that I speak about him because he raises an important issue with regard to Hinduism in relation to cows. It's a little complicated, so I'll just leave it at that for now. Finally, I speak about His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And of course, we all know how Prabhupada spread what he called Krishna consciousness all over the world.
Todos sabemos cómo Krishna propagó la conciencia de Krishna a lo largo de todo el mundo.
And with it, he promoted that cows should be protected all over the world.
Y también promovió de cómo las vacas deben ser protegidas, y lo hizo a lo largo de todo el mundo.
And so he started farm projects,
Entonces, el proyecto de grano,
and he insisted you have to have cows,
y insistía que debíamos tenerlas,
and they should be protected for their entire natural life.
y debían ser protegidas las vacas por toda su vida natural.
And not just the female cows, but also the male bulls. And not just Indian cows, but all cows. I mentioned that last point because in India, you'll find many people who are promoting cow protection. And then when you ask them when you dig a little bit, what is their idea? It comes out that they're only interested in Indian breed of cows. They don't consider Western cows as cows. So then it turns out that their idea is all tied together with a kind of Hindu nationalism. But in this way, Srila Prabhupada stands out. He wasn't interested in Hinduism. He wasn't interested in Indian nationalism. He was interested in Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita for the world. Yeah. So that's first half of this third chapter, which I called Cows in Contested Fields, because there's a lot of contestation on different levels going on. Things are being challenged, things are being questioned. There's different opinions. Some very strong and very emotional opinions related to cows. And this goes on to the present day. So I try to identify what are these issues. So in the second half, I kind of turn back to the ancient texts because I had introduced them in the previous chapter, but now I go back again. In the context now of modern questions about what those ancient texts were saying. It gets complicated. I briefly talk about violence and non-violence and cows in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And regarding Bhagavad Gita, I point out the difference between Prabhupada's understanding of the Gita and Mahatma Gandhi's understanding. Prabhupada took every opportunity to criticize Mahatma Gandhi's interpretation of Bhagavad Gita.
Ahora aprovechaba cada oportunidad que tenía para criticar la interpretación que Gandhi hacía sobre la Gita.
Because Gandhi was making a kind of allegorical interpretation, and Prabhupada said, no, it shouldn't be taken that way.
Porque Gandhi quería meter una interpretación alegórica y trata de que no.
And of course, one of the statements in the 18th chapter of the Gita is about the Vaishyas. What are the duties of the Vaishyas?
Entonces, una de las declaraciones que en el capítulo 18 de la Bhagavad Gita se trata de los Vaishyas. ¿Cuáles son los deberes de los Vaishyas?
Krishi, Goraksha, Vani, Jam, Vaishya Karma, Swabhavajam. The three things are described as their duties. One is farming.
Hay tres cosas escritas como sus deberes. Uno es farming, o la vida, crear granjas.
One is protecting cows.
La otra es proteger las vacas.
And one is business.
Y la tercera es hacer negocios.
So these are what Vaishyas do.
Entonces, eso es lo que los Vaishyas deben hacer.
So Go Raksha is protection of cows.
Entonces, todo Raksha se refiere a la protección de las vacas.
Cows need protection. Why? Well, because they're not very good at protecting themselves.
Entonces, las vacas necesitan protección. ¿Por qué? Porque no son muy buenos cuidándolas.
When they're in the wild, they live, well, you don't see wild cows much anymore. In England, there's some wild cows in one place, but generally you don't see wild cows.
Generalmente no se ven vacas en estado salvaje. En Inglaterra hay algún tipo de vacas salvajes, pero no se ven en estado salvaje.
But even those so-called wild cows in England, they're actually kind of protected.
Incluso esas así llamadas vacas salvajes que hay en Inglaterra aún así son protegidas.
Anyway, they need protection all the way back into Rig Vedic times.
Entonces, bueno, ellos necesitan protección. Y bueno, volviendo hacia atrás a los tiempos del Rig Veda.
And now, for the most part, they're not at all protected.
Y ahora, en la mayor parte de los lugares no están protegidas para nada.
Now, what is done with cows? They're bred for milk and for meat and for their other byproducts, their leather.
Entonces, las vacas hoy en día son solamente criadas por la leche y por la carne y por todos los demás subproductos.
And the estimate is that roughly 34,000 cows are slaughtered every hour around the world.
Lo que se calcula es que alrededor del mundo unas 34.000 vacas son matadas cada hora.
So that means if we go back, now it's 7:45, so 6:45, 1 hour ago, there were 34,000 more cows.
Entonces, si nos ponemos en verano, eso quiere decir que calculamos en serie había 34.000 vacas muertas.
Which comes to, 300 million cows per year.
Lo que da así como 300 millones de vacas en el mundo.
That's just cows, that's not all the other animals.
Eso es solamente las vacas, no se refiere a todos los demás animales.
The number of chickens is vastly more than that.
El número de pollos en los es ampliamente mayor que eso.
And the number of fish is vastly more than that.
Y el número de peces es aún mucho más amplio que eso.
But yeah, just considering cows. In ISKCON, we have roughly altogether worldwide, we have around 5,000 cows.
Entonces, dentro de eso tenemos alrededor del mundo, únicamente unas 5.000 vacas.
And most of those are in India, around 4,000.
La mayoría de ellas se encuentran en India, alrededor de 4.000.
and the others are here and there in our different farms in different parts of the world.
Y las otras están distribuidas por aquí y por allá en las granjas que están a lo largo de todo el mundo.
Yeah. So that's nice that we have the cows, but maybe it's not very many.
Es muy bueno que nosotros tengamos esas vacas, pero están muy
Not many. It's not many.
no son muchas, claro, no son muchas.
Hmm. Okay, let's go to the next chapter. This is called Surveying the Cow Care Field.
Entonces, este capítulo es revisando el campo de cuidado de las vacas.
So here I'm taking us to the present, and I'm focusing on mainly India.
Entonces, nuevamente volvemos al tiempo presente y nos enfocamos particularmente en India.
And I'm giving a kind of overview of how cow protection is being done in India today.
Entonces, lo que doy es una revisión acerca de cómo el proteccionismo de las vacas está siendo llevado adelante en los días actuales en India.
How they're being protected and how they're being not protected in India.
Algunas que son protegidas y otras que son no protegidas.
India has, sometimes it's reckoned to be the largest dairy industry in the world.
La India tiene lo que mucha gente reconoce como la mayor industria láctea del mundo.
Since the 1970s, when they kind of organized themselves to do that.
Desde los años 70, cuando ellos se organizaron para llevar esto adelante.
And that might sound very good, like, oh, very nice, they're milking their cows. They have lots of cows and they're milking their cows. Very nice.
Entonces ellos pueden sonar muy interesante, porque, bueno, ellos están ordeñando muchas vacas y tienen mucho eso.
But no, what that means is all of those cows, when they're giving less milk, then what happens to those cows?
Pero no, en realidad lo que significa es que todas esas vacas, cuando empiezan a producir menos leche, ¿qué es lo que ocurre con ellas?
They're being sent for slaughter.
Son enviadas al mercado.
And what happens with the slaughter? Well, the meat is mainly exported to the Middle East and other places in Southeast Asia.
Entonces lo que sucede con los mataderos es que la mayor parte de la carne es exportada hacia el Medio Oriente y a otras partes del sudeste asiático.
And they also have a very large leather industry export.
Y también tiene una industria de cuero muy grande en exportación.
And meanwhile, the percentage of vegetarians in India has been sinking over the last few decades.
Y también el porcentaje de vegetarianos en la India estaba haciendo un vídeo en las últimas décadas.
Now it's down to average for India altogether. It's down to around 18%.
Ahora el número ha bajado alrededor de todas las Indias en general, cerca del 18% de la población vegetariana.
So if the number of Hindus, the percentage is something like 70 or more, 80%.
Y el porcentaje de hindúes en la India es en el 70 o el 80%.
That means a lot of people who claim to be Hindu are not vegetarians.
Eso significa que un montón de gente que se llama mismo hinduista no son vegetarianos.
So these things are going on in modern day India.
Estas son las cosas que están ocurriendo en la actualidad.
At the same time, there are many goshalas. There's 3,000, more than 3,000 registered goshalas.
Pero al mismo tiempo hay muchos goshalas, de hecho hay unos 3.000 goshalas registradas.
So I discuss about the goshalas and the economy of these goshalas.
Entonces yo hablo acerca de los goshalas y de la economía de ellos.
I visited one goshala a complex in the southwest of Rajasthan.
Yo visité una instalación de Guyana en el sureste de la región de Rajasthan.
This is a kind of desert area.
Es un área desértica.
And when I visited there, they had approximately 45,000 cows.
Cuando yo visité ahí, yo tenían unas 4.500 vacas.
Very nice, very well organized,
Muy lindo, muy bien organizado.
very dedicated people.
Gente muy dedicada.
They had a big cow hospital which could take care of 1,000 cows at a time.
Tenían un gran hospital para las vacas que podía ocuparse de cuidar 1.000 vacas al mismo tiempo.
Yeah, that was on the large size, and then I visited some smaller goshalas.
Esa fue visité uno grande, pero también visité algunos más pequeños.
And I spoke with a lot of people who are managing and who are campaigning for cow protection.
Y tuve la oportunidad de hablar con las personas que lo estaban manejando y que hacen campañas por la protección.
And the question in my mind was, what are they saying about the value of cows alive rather than slaughtered?
Entonces, la pregunta que yo tenía en mi mente es, ¿qué es lo que ellos están diciendo acerca del valor que tiene la vaca viva en lugar de muerta?
So there's a lot of talk about the value of milk and all of dairy products.
Se habla mucho acerca del valor de la leche y de todos los productos lácteos,
And including, of course, ghee.
incluyendo, por supuesto, el ghee.
In earlier times, before electricity, there were no refrigerators. So the first thing you do with milk is you process it and make it into ghee, because you can keep ghee for a long time.
Entonces, en la antigüedad, cuando no había electricidad, tampoco había heladera, por lo cual el primer proceso que se hacía a la leche era convertirla en ghee, porque el ghee puede ser convertido en producto.
And of course, ghee is very essential in performance of yajna.
Y por supuesto, el ghee también es muy esencial también en la realización de los yajnas.
And you could say this is kind of the connecting point between cow protection and Brahminical culture.
Y entonces podemos decir que es el punto de conexión que hay entre la protección de las vacas y la cultura brahmínica.
Prabhupada many times spoke about cow protection and Brahminical culture. They go together.
Porque muchas veces se enfatizaba de la protección de las vacas y la cultura brahmínica y ambas muy juntas.
So what is the connection? Well, the connection is the ghee.
Entonces, ¿cuál es la conexión? La conexión es el ghee.
Because what do the Brahmins do? They perform yajna. And how do they do yajna? They offer ghee.
Porque lo que hacen los brahmanes, ellos realizan yajna. ¿Cómo realizan los yajnas? Ofreciendo la relación del ghee.
Of course, nowadays, who cares about yajna and Brahmins and all of that? And therefore, who cares about cows?
Entonces, en el día después, ¿quién le importa acerca de los yajnas y de los brahmanas? Y entonces, en consecuencia, ¿a quién le importa acerca de las vacas?
Yeah. I talk about the tangible value of cows and cow products and the intangible benefits.
Yo también hablo acerca de los valores tangibles e intangibles de los productos de la vaca.
And I found this especially interesting, that those who were actually taking care of cows, their experience of being with cows.
Entonces, lo que yo encontraba muy interesante es hablar sobre las personas que estaban a cargo del cuidado de las vacas, la experiencia que ellos han tenido.
I met one householder north of Mumbai, had his own land, and he had, I think, around 100 cows and bulls.
Entonces, yo me encontré con otro jefe de hogar que tenía en su propia tierra, al norte de Mumbai, tenía como 100 vacas y toros.
And he said, the cows teach me lessons.
Y con las vacas me enseñan lecciones.
I learn from my cows.
Yo aprendo de ellas.
I met another devotee, a god sister of mine,
También me encontré con otra devota, mi hermana espiritual,
who lives in Mayapur since many years.
que hace muchos años que vive en Mali.
Do you know Hrimati?
¿Conoce a Mali?
Hrimati also takes care of the elephants.
Ella también se ocupa del cuidado de los elefantes.
And she has her own cows. She has around 10 cows.
Ella tiene sus propias vacas, tiene unos 10 vacas.
And I interviewed her, and one thing she said that really stuck with me.
Entonces yo le hice una entrevista a ella y una cosa particular de la que ella dijo me impresionó.
She said, keeping cows, you keep your sanity.
Mantén las vacas para mantener tu sanidad.
Keeping cows, you keep your sanity.
Mantener las vacas para mantener tu sanidad.
This is her experience.
Esa es su propia experiencia.
Okay, we can go to, we have 2 more chapters.
Quedan dos capítulos.
The next chapter is more theoretical. It's called Cow Care and the Ethics of Care.
El próximo capítulo es un poco más teórico, trata del cuidado de las vacas y la ética del cuidado.
So in Western philosophy, there's a major area of philosophy is ethics in the broadest sense, ethics.
Entonces, en la filosofía occidental hay un área muy grande dentro de la filosofía que habla acerca de la ética.
And then this gets kind of subdivided into practical fields of ethics.
Y entonces ella está subdividida en temas prácticos.
So there's medical ethics, there's business ethics,
Hay ética médica, la medicina ética del negocio,
and there's also animal ethics.
y también está la ética sobre el mundo.
In recent years, only about 40 years ago, a whole new sort of idea of ethics was developed.
En los últimos 40 años aproximadamente, una nueva idea de la ética está desarrollada.
And this is called the ethics of care.
Y se llama la ética del cuidado.
In the simplest way to explain the ethics of care is it starts with the experience of a mother in relation to her child.
Una forma muy básica de explicar la ética del cuidado comienza explicando la relación que hay entre una madre y su hijo.
Mothers know how to care for their children.
Las madres saben cómo cuidar a sus hijos.
And based on that sense of what to do in particular circumstances, whatever the circumstances are,
Entonces, basándose en ese sentido de que ellas saben qué hacer en cada circunstancia en particular, sea cual sea la circunstancia.
they know immediately how to make changes for the circumstance.
Ellos saben inmediatamente cómo hacer los cambios necesarios para que cambien.
So that's been developed into a philosophical perspective of how to think about what is the right way to act in this world, broadly speaking.
Entonces, esto fue desarrollado en una forma de filosofía, cómo nosotros debemos actuar correctamente en este mundo.
And that's also been applied to animal ethics.
También esto fue aplicado a la ética del mundo.
So what I've done in this chapter is I'm kind of saying, okay, we've got some ideas over here called the ethics of care.
Entonces, lo que dice este capítulo es que bueno, tenemos algunas ideas y acerca de la ética del cuidado.
And we have some ideas over here from the Indian tradition.
Y Y tenemos otras ideas por otro lado acerca de lo que es la tradición india.
Specifically, we have the idea of Dharma, the idea of yoga, and the idea of bhakti.
Específicamente tenemos la idea del Dharma, del yoga y del bhakti.
And I sort of trace a path from Dharma through yoga to bhakti. Now, together, we can bring ethics of care and bhakti together.
Entonces, yo lo que hago es trazar un camino entre yoga y bhakti y dharma y unirlo con la ética del cuidado.
And this kind of culminates in, okay, so what does that mean practically? And that leads us into the 6th chapter called These Cows Will Not Be Lost. Envisioning a careful future for cows. I'm a little bit playing with the word careful in English. Careful with one L and one word, careful, just means being cautious, but careful means full of care. And here I take the reader to Mayapur to visit the Sridham Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir Goshala. And I sketch a little bit how that's running, how they're doing. And then I take them to Hungary, to the New Rajadam farm. New Rajadam is, I think, especially interesting because they're really good at planning and organizing in a systematic way to actually have a sustainable system of cow protection. So, for example, they have calculated just how often and how much they can mate the cows for reproduction and keep a certain number of cows to be always self-sustained. They don't have to buy any food for the cows from outside. And they've been very concerned to actually train and engage the bulls. Because this is always the big question mark, what to do with the oxen, the bulls. So recently they built a special barn. I guess it's a circular barn, I'm not sure, where they've built a device for the cows, the oxen to go around, and they can grind grain. And with the same machine, they can run a circular saw for cutting wood.
Y con la misma máquina, con la misma energía, ellos mueven también una sierra circular con la que cortan leña.
So now all of their firewood for the winter is Hungary has a cold winter.
Y ahora toda la leña que necesita para el invierno la sacan de ahí y un día es muy frío.
And they sent me a little video just 2 days ago or 3. Now they actually have it running. They actually showed they're cutting the wood, the saw is working, the oxen are going around.
Entonces, hace 2 o 3 días recibí un video de eso, donde veo que está completamente funcional, está toda la maquinaria, están cortando la leña, están dando la vuelta y están moviendo la leña.
Because these are things that devotees have been talking about for decades.
Porque estas son cosas de las cuales los devotos estuvieron hablando durante décadas.
Now they're finally doing it.
Pero ahora finalmente lo llevaron a la práctica.
I also speak about Bhaktivedanta Manor outside London. They have very beautiful Goshala and very nice cows and oxen program.
Entonces también hay un poco acerca de la actividad en Tamara, de las escuelas de Londres, donde ellos tienen un muy lindo Goshala, que tienen muy buenas cosas.
But there, some years ago, they had one problem. They had a problem.
Pero hace unos años tuvieron un problema.
There was one cow that was lame. It couldn't walk.
A una vaca que estaba como inválida, no podía caminar.
And the local, there's an organization for animal protection. They came and they said, "Oh, this cow has to be put down," as they say.
Hay una organización del cuidado de las vacas, y vinieron y examinaron la vaca y dijeron que la tenían que sacrificar.
And the devotees are saying, "No, the cow we're taking care. She's going to be okay. It's a matter of time."
Y los devotos dijeron, no, nosotros estamos cuidando, la vaca comer.
So by some strange circumstance, the devotees were tricked, and these people from this institute, they came and they injected something and the cow was killed.
Entonces, de alguna forma, los devotos fueron engañados por esta gente de la asociación, que ellos vinieron y le dieron una inyección a la vaca.
So the devotees were very angry about that, and they made a public protest. And then that institution, they had to publicly apologize. They wrote a letter and publicly apologized. But the result of that whole incident was that the government, with some guidance from the devotees, produced a document which gave guidelines for such circumstances.
Pero el resultado de esto fue que el gobierno, con ayuda de los devotos, escribió un documento donde daba ciertos parámetros.
So anyway, I described that, and I describe another situation kind of similar. Okay, then I talk about cow protection in 3 qualities. So in terms of the 3 modes of nature. This is a little complicated, so I won't get into it. But so what would cow protection in the mode of ignorance be? Well, I say that, what did I say? Well, I sort of one thing I do is sort of criticize the cow protection activism, which goes on, especially in the name of Hinduism.
Entonces, lo que hago es explicar un poco el activismo que se está llevando adelante en cuanto a cuidar las vacas en relación con el hinduismo.
So that's kind of, it can be tamaguna, it can be rajaguna.
Eso puede ser un poco tamaguna o rajaguna.
But a lot of it has to do with false identities, identifying oneself as a Hindu as opposed to a Muslim, for example.
Pero eso tiene que ver con las falsas identificaciones. Yo me identifico a mí mismo como un hindu que se supone que yo me debo ocupar.
And then I propose cow protection in Sattva Guna is what is wanted.
Entonces, lo que yo propongo luego es que el cuidado de las vacas en Sattva Guna, la unidad de la vaca, es lo que nosotros queremos.
I quote here Mahatma Gandhi,
Tengo una cita aquí.
who he said, cow slaughter can never be stopped by law. Knowledge, education, and the spirit of kindliness toward cows alone can put an end to it.
El conocimiento, la dedicación y un sentido de compasión hacia las vacas es lo que puede poner fin.
And then so I say, let's adjust that quote a little bit. And I say, let's shift the word alone to the first sentence. The word alone, let's move it to the first sentence of Gandhi. So I want to sort of adjust what this is to say, cow slaughter can never be stopped by law alone. So in other words, law has its place. Because Gandhi was saying, kind of forget about law. And I'm saying, well, law has its place also. But what's really needed is sattva guna. And that's where we come back to what Prabhupada called Brahminical culture. And that's where we come in. That's what we're supposed to be practicing and teaching. And then I give 6 what I call affirmations for cow protection. And this is where envisioning a careful future for cows comes in. Can we switch to the next slide? Yeah. So on the in the end, we have a happy ending. Happy ending to the book. The book has, in which I describe what's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is our topic tomorrow morning. That Krishna, that Lord Chaitanya is dancing with all the different animals in the Jarikanda forest. And so what is being proposed is a higher taste, a changing of taste. Why are 34,000 cows being killed per hour? Mainly for the taste.
¿Por qué 34.000 vacas son matadas cada hora? Principalmente por el gusto.
And we're saying there's a higher taste.
Pero podemos decir que hay un gusto superior,
It's more satisfying.
es más satisfactorio.
But to understand that, we need Dominical culture,
Pero para entender esto necesitamos una cultura dominicana.
and we need examples of how it's possible and practical to have cow protection.
Necesitamos ejemplos de cómo es posible y cómo hacerlo de forma práctica.
But to do that needs a lot of determination,
Y hacer eso necesita mucha determinación,
which most of us have not found yet.
lo cual muchos de nosotros no hemos encontrado.
We have so many things else to do.
Tenemos muchas cosas más.
So one thing I'm trying with this book, it's for a wider public, especially an educated public.
Lo que se trata de hacer con este libro es para un público más amplio, especialmente un público educado.
But I'm also hoping that devotees will read the book
Pero también lo que espero es que los devotos puedan leerlo
and will think, yes, we should do something.
y puedan decir, correcto, si tenemos que hacer
Something more than just talk.
algo más que simplemente hablar.
I can only talk, I can write, I can talk. That's about all I can do.
Entonces yo puedo simplemente hablar o escribir, eso es lo que yo puedo hacer.
But I'm hoping others will think, okay, let's take it to the next step beyond talking.
Entonces, espero que alguien más diga, bueno, vamos a un paso más adelante. Simplemente.
Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Tiene una hipótesis que dice que la función cristiana hace que el hombre se distingue en la formación humana, la vez que causa sí, pierde el humano con los animales y genera diferentes tipos de violencia.
So you wanted to make this point, or you wanted to ask me something? Oh, yeah, there's been something, I forget his name, something White, I think, wrote specifically challenge on the point of Christianity bringing a certain attitude to animals in the 1970s, much more recently than Schopenhauer.
Alguien que escribió acerca del punto de vista cristiano del cuidado de los animales a finales del siglo XIX, más reciente.
And it's something that gets debated, whether it's true or not. The director of the center who invited me to write this book is himself a Christian theologian. He's a vicar of the Anglican Church, and he's written now many books on how we can find spirit of animal protection within the. If we study Christianity more deeply, then we can appreciate, no, this is about protecting all of life.
El director del instituto que me invitó a escribir este libro es un cristiano practicante que escribió mucho acerca de este tema de la relación entre el cristianismo y el cuidado de los animales. Pero si uno investiga más profundamente se da cuenta de que no es tan así, porque hay un tema de cuidado de los animales también.
So it's about how Christians have interpreted their own tradition, that they decided, yes, it's okay, there's no restrictions, we can eat whatever we want.
Y es como los cristianos hicieron la interpretación de su propia cultura, de su propia historia y dijeron, bueno, no hay ningún tipo de restricción, podemos matar y comer cualquier tipo de animal.
And I think it can be argued that the official church supported that position because that brings in more followers. If they insist, no, everyone should be vegetarian, then nobody's going to follow them.
Y se puede decir que las autoridades eclesiásticas de alguna forma apoyaron esta postura en orden de tener más seguidores, porque si ellos inculcaban que todos deberían ser vegetarianos y hubiesen perdido gente.
When I my first year studying in Oxford, my college was the Dominican school, Dominican Roman Catholic.
En los primeros años de estudio,
you had to be a member of one of the colleges in Oxford. And I was a member of the Dominican College. And one of the monks, he explained to me once. He said, in the earlier times, we were all vegetarian. But there was always an option if someone was sick, if a monk was sick, then he could eat meat. So then everyone gradually made it a habit to always be sick. Sorry, I need to eat meat. Yeah. Yeah. Krishna. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah.
Las escrituras, la voz de Dios dice, yo mi voz, no matarás nada vivo, solo comerás fruta, verduras y semillas. No matarás. Parece que los cristianos olvidaron.